Hello, this is Mike Brown, and I'm going to show you how I draw some icons today. So you can see I've got GIMP over here, and this is my normal setup. It's a 500 by 500 image, and what I do is I have Snap to Grid turned on and Show Grid turned on. You can see these pink dots, those are the grid, and I can configure the grid. My normal grid height and width is 25 by 25. I change it to 5 by 5. That's great for when you're zoomed in, but 25 by 25 is normal. I've also placed guides in the center, and then offset by certain amounts so that I have an additional bigger grid. And oftentimes I will have a white background because I like that. It makes it easier to see what you're drawing. So let's make a new layer group. The most recent thing that I was asked to make is a set of starfighter icons. So we're going to name these starfighters, and we're going to make a new layer. I'm going to call it 1. That's a good name. Okay, so now we've got, this is the newest version of GIMP, and this tool, the Paths tool, is the tool that you want to use when you're drawing. You can see the paths dialog over here. We got all my paths I've been drawing, and I can view any path. You can edit them, move them around, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to make a new one. So now he asked me, he wants some starfighter designs with each one having a fleet with a fighter, an interceptor, an attack fighter, and a bomber. So let's imagine it's a starfighter, and we're just gonna throw out right now. And notice I'm just using the grid. I just held down Control and I did that last click. Now you can go through different path modes. When you're holding down Control, it'll draw a spline out. So you can, let's make that narrower at the base. Nah, like it better over here, really. Okay. As you see, I just drag around the control points until it looks like what I want. And then I realize now I'm holding down Control Shift when I click to delete these lines. Realize I want some more points, and Control click will connect to an existing path. There we go. Now, this is cool and all. Let's make that visible. But let's now go to a new path. So what I want to do here is I want to make the general shape of the ship, and then try to make my other one match that as closely as possible. So I just drew that, and then I can go like this. I can see that my original lines were not quite correct. And here's where I'm going to change my grid to be a 5. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so those are the same. Oh, Control scroll wheel is how I'm zooming, by the way. Okay, now we're going to move that to here and that to here. And let's There. Okay, so now I've got that matching that shape. I've changed my grid back down to 25 since I'm zooming out again. And then maybe, oops, there. Maybe we'll drag some. Oop. Now, there's this annoying thing that only 1/2 of, like it will decide for itself which one, which side of the control point it wants to come out of. Okay, so we can get rid of this. And there's a basic spaceship. I don't know, it doesn't look very good. Let's go back, put that other one back in there. And let's see. Is there some other way that we can delete that? Is there some other way that we can make this look better? So now what I'm running into is I liked those lines there, but you know, I'm not going to have lines there. These are going to be solid spaceships because he wants them, he said, on a die. He's going to be putting them on D6s. So we want them to be a solid shape. Maybe it's because it's too swoopy. Maybe we need to stop making it curvy down here. Let's instead just make it straight lines. No, that's also pretty sucky. How do spaceships look normally? A little bit better, but let's make the whole thing actually straight for right now. Okay, so suddenly we've gone from a organic looking spaceship to a very blocky spaceship. Not that that's a bad thing. It's almost looking like something out of He-Man or something. Oh, now by the way, you might notice how I'm drawing right up to this line. I try to keep everything such that they stay within this line, that line, that line, and that line, generally speaking. And I don't really know why I do that. Oh, I know why. Back in the days of uploading these things to the Noun project, they were like, oh, you have to have this many pixels of border on the edge. And I've just always done that. It's like a habit ever since then. Okay, I sort of like this. If you hold down Shift, you can select multiple control lines. That's still a little bit too wide. Or multiple control points. Okay, so now if we were to select this, Shift B does the bucket fill, and there you go. Is that a spaceship? That looks more like maybe it's a bomber. Okay. Go back to our thing. So if this is a bomber, let us make the wings a little bit wider. And let's make this part of the wing a little bit wider also. Okay. So, there we go. We bucket fill, and we've got our bomber. And we're going to name that one bomber. Okay, so now he wants these things to feel like they're in a, we can get rid of that path, feel like they're in a fleet. So they have to have similar shapes. So this is the blocky shape, ships, and the bomber. So we're going to duplicate this path, hide the original one, and we're going to make a, let's duplicate this layer as well, and rename it one fighter. And he also wanted fighter, interceptor, attack fighter, and bomber. So duplicate, whoops, I deleted it instead. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. One fighter, one attack fighter, and one, what was the other one? Interceptor. Okay, and then I'm just hitting delete to delete the contents. I have everything selected. Okay, so now I've got our first shape, and now we're going to duplicate it a few times. And let's take this one. Oh yeah, and also let's hide that bomber. We don't need to see it anymore because we've already drawn it. How do we do an attack? An attack fighter seems like it would be narrower. With more pronounced spikiness. Now are we going to lose too much? Let's also make attack fighters a little bit smaller. Now the question is, how small can his whatever is creating this dice? Okay, so now I'm about to move the whole thing by hitting Alt and then moving it. So how small can his whatever his dice printer is, dice creator machine, how small can it print? Is this too narrow? Or is this okay? And the answer is I have no idea. There. And so the reason why I use GIMP is because these grids make it so I can just easily move the points around to the exact location that I want because it snaps to the grid. And I've never found a way to do that with Inkscape. It might be possible, but I don't know. So let's call that an attack fighter. Select from path, Shift B, boom. Okay, so now I've got our attack fighter. Oh, we just called that a fighter. Okay, well, we can cut that, paste that here, and anchor it. So there's our attack. Now I can hide that one. Now, how is this different from an interceptor or a fighter? Well, interceptors, what is the difference? I have no idea, honestly. Okay, well, he just wants 4 variations of the same ship. There was this version, and there was this version. And now we're about to make our 3rd version. So let's say interceptors are really narrow, and that they are more straight. Do. You see, I'm just, there we go. Holding down Shift right now. There. Okay, now let's hide all these other ones. That looks super lame. Let's add in some more points here. Holding down Shift, by the way, when I select multiple things. Okay, there we go. It's got little side wings. I think it still wants a little bit more of a dynamic look than this. So let's go like this. Okay, so if I didn't know any better, I'd say that was a fountain or something like that. Wow, this is really not turning out well. Okay, how about that? Almost looks like a little front station that you could sit in. Okay, well, that's still pretty good. Let us do it. Shift B. And we're going to the interceptor and we bucket fill it. Okay, so we've got an interceptor now. And now the fighter is the last version. So we've got currently all these. And a fighter will tend to be so. What are the names of these things again? Well, no, I've got the names written down right here. Interceptor, attack, fighter, and bomber. Well, bomber's going to be big and heavy because it's dropping bombs on things. Interceptor is going to be fast because it's moving to catch things. But what's the difference between an attack fighter and a fighter? I'm going to go with an attack fighter. An attack fighter will be smaller and more maneuverable, whereas a fighter is going to be slightly bigger and bulkier. So this is our fighter, not quite as big as a bomber, but bigger than, so let's not compare it to an interceptor. The small one is the fighter, the big one is the bomber. This is going to be in between. I don't think that it'll be able to handle that. Like, I don't want to make these things too narrow. Okay, there, so that's smaller than that. They all had, well, one of them had that. Let's go like that. And then we're just going to move it in between the other ones. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so now here's the shape we're currently working with. No points seem like they're too narrow for his dice creating machine, whatever it is. Okay, so now we've got 4 different ships we've made. And let's not see that. Okay, so we've got the bomber, we've got the fighter, we've got the attack. Okay, one has a beefy nose, the other one has beefy arms. we've got the interceptor. I don't like the fact that these are too similar. Okay, so let's go back. Fighter, attack. Okay, how about instead, so the bomber has very obvious, so the bomber, there. The bomber very obviously has these wings that point in. The interceptor doesn't point in. No, he points straight up. The interceptor also points straight up. So one of them can have wings that point in, and the other one perhaps will have completely different. Okay, so we have attack and we have fighter. So the fighter is the big one. Let's give that one more scythe type curving wings. This is the fighter. Okay, Mr. Fighter. Actually, let's delete you. I just cleared the contents of it. Okay, so this guy, I'm going to now give him much wider, girthy wings. Okay, what do we think about that? I don't like it. Let's do it more then. Look, it's like an X-wing. Except these weird things. It's the big arm one again. There was that ship with the big arms that I drew a while back. Okay, so what do you think about that? Let's make this more pronounced. Okay, that's obviously a very different shape from the other fighters in the series. It sort of has the same type of nose as the interceptor, but it's got much larger wing things. Okay, let's call that good. And then now let's figure out what to do about the attack fighter. The attack fighter I'm going to go with is fast. It's a combination of this fast one and this one. Which means it's going to have wings, and it might also have a bit of a nose cone. Okay, this is the attack one. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to delete these lines, and just fooling around with things here. Okay, let's make, oh, look at that. I like that. Okay, we're gonna make these something's wrong with this. It looks horrible now. Let's undo all that. Okay, this actually looks pretty good. Although, I'm not so sure about this. Ugh. Okay, let's delete those lines and move over like this. Okay, how did this one look? Okay, it wasn't nearly as pronounced as this one is. This is starting to look sort of weird. Okay. Let's delete these lines again. Okay, so holding down Shift when I'm selecting multiple. Okay. And now, what about this little tail bit? We can make it be an inward tail. Oh, look at that. That's pretty good. Wait a minute. Okay, so now we've got the same nose type thing as that one. Okay. Select from path. This is the attack fighter. Shift B. I like it. That one looks pretty good. Now, the fighter is the weakest of the lot. So let's go back to the fighter. And we're in delete it. Let's make the fighter it's got the simplest name. Let's make it also the simplest ship. Okay, we're just deleting these and we're going to recreate them following the same lines as the existing one. Okay, there we go. Control Shift deletes a node, and Control connects two nodes. Okay, so I like that lumping in. Well, I'm just moving every point all over the place. Okay, so there is a definite shape to this. Now that we've got backward pointing things, okay. Sort of reminds me of those Star Wars ones, the Naboo fighters. How they had although this part should be behind it, I think, and then these would extend further. Okay, well, I think I'm liking this fairly well. Shift B. You can go B to go back to your editing with the nodes. Okay, so now let us compare these shapes. So we've got the bomber, the fighter, the attack fighter, and the interceptor. They look pretty good. Okay, so there's our blocky series of ships. Now he wants them in fleets of 4, and he wants asymmetrical, no wings, alien designs. Something like 24 fighters. So we're going to do 6 sets of interceptor, attack, fighter, bomber. Okay, how long have I been going for now? We're looking way over here. Okay, well, that's probably long enough. I've shown the basic idea, shown you how to change the grid, you know, how to draw all the lines. And as you can see, you can pull back paths from any point in time in the past. And, you know, it's fairly simple to modify everything as past. Now, if you want to save as a path, you actually say export path, and if you don't give it the SVG extension, it won't save it as an SVG by extension, but it'll still be an SVG file. And then you also have another option here. This is what I usually do just because people don't use SVGs that much. You just can export and then give it a .ping. So either way will get your stuff out. If you want to pull in an SVG from somewhere else, you can import path from the paths dialog. But you know, we again don't use SVGs very often. But this is vector based. We're drawing it with these lines. I could go and take this path and import it into a larger picture, and then, you know, it would not be jagged on the parts that would be jagged if you're just doing it pixel based. So let's just go export these, and when I export them I always have to remember to pull off the white background. So we're going to call this 1.I ping, and it pops up the dialog, and we export it. 1.A ping, and it just, by the way, I hit enter there. 1.F. Okay, so now I've got all of our new drawings, which I can bring this picture over, and there they are, and I can just upload that to Board Game Geek whenever I am ready to do it. But I think that's all for tonight. So if you have any questions with the way that I draw the things, I guess that's basically all that you need to know. A couple things I didn't show you, which for these specific icons I didn't really need them, but when you're making curvy things, I'm going to make a copy of this path so I can just fool around. If you hold down Control, it will add an anchor to it. If you hold down Shift while you're holding down Control, it'll drag both of them around so that they're exactly even and opposite. So you can do that. You can also delete those the same way you delete the points. You can also drag, or you can add a new point to a existing line and then move it around by holding down Control when you click it. So Control adds, Control Shift deletes. You can also take a line and just pull it, which will force it to go through the point that you drag it to, and it just drags the splines as necessary to make that happen. One thing that they don't have that I wish they did would be a way to say, I want this to be this long, and then you start drawing the other one, And you can say, keep that far one the same length, but make it exactly opposite of the one that I'm now dragging. But you can't do that, which is too bad. And I believe that is possible in Inkscape. I just haven't used it as much at all. Another thing that's sort of annoying is you can't control which one they're going to start dragging out first, and I've never figured out yet what rule there is. So if you want to make, like, let's pretend I'm trying to make this bow downward. It worked. And on this one, it doesn't work. Why? Because it's bowing that. So, anyway, it does stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's a free tool, very powerful. I mean, I didn't show almost any of the tools that it has. Oh, here's some other stuff that you might find interesting. So, when you have a path like this, you can use all of these transformation tools, like the rotate tool. On a path, you can select it. This is the normal setting where it modifies the pixels of the image. But you can modify a path as well. So let's view this path that we've got. You click here, and ta-da, we're rotating the path. So this is very useful when you want to draw a 5-pointed star or something. So let us delete this, and let's go and make a 5-pointed star. All you have to do is go like this, for instance, and then make another one, and let's hide this thing. Who needs to see the bomber? So, although I want the white background because it makes it so much easier to see these lines. Okay, so we've got this. We're making a 5-pointed star. We duplicate the path, and then all we have to do is know enough math. Take this path and we rotate it 360 divided by 5, which is 60 divided by 5. Gosh, let's just open up our calculator. 360 divided by 5, 72. You say, I'm going to rotate it 72 degrees. Rotate. And then let's duplicate this a whole bunch of times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And we're going to rotate this one negative 72 degrees. Rotate. I'm going to rotate this one 144 degrees. Rotate. I'm going to rotate this one negative 144 degrees. Rotate. So now you've got your basics of your star. And what you can do is you can say merge visible paths. Now it's all one thing. Whoops. And we can go and zoom in here. Control scroll wheel is zooming, by the way. And we can add a point right here. Let's get that as close as we can to the middle. There we go. And then we delete that. We delete that. We connect that to there. And we can repeat the process. Delete. Connect it to the top. And so, as you can see, eventually I'll get to having a star. And even if it's not mathematically precisely defined, it's close enough that no human looking at it would be like, That's not a star. Get rid of these points. And it was hard to figure out how to do that initially. So you're getting this stuff for free. So it's like a jerk move. Getting stuff for free. There you go. So what other stuff is there? Scaling. Again, by default mine is set to scale based on paths just because I do that all the time. But you know, you can scale it down, you could scale it up. If you unlock this, you can stretch it. See? Another thing, if you don't want to scale it based on the entire image, because let's say you're working on some small part, a good way to do that is selection from path, and then start up your scale tool again. It will only scale it based on the size of the thing, you know. So let's scale this. Let's imagine that we're making, and then Control A will select everything. Duplicate path, duplicate path. And then, I don't know what we're going to do with this. I'm going to rotate it around the center. 120 degrees, rotate. Negative 120 degrees, rotate. Ta-da, that's stars. It's like the ouch symbol. Actually, I might as well save that one because it looks so good. New layer. Oh, my caps lock is on. Putting your caps lock on is a really good thing to do. Because then it looks like you're screaming at people. These are tips for the wise by Mike Brown. You can, like, all of these things. I mean, I guess I don't have to show it off anymore. You can figure out what all these things do just by looking. But yeah, all the tools, you can just switch it over to path mode and they'll work on paths. For some weird reason, you can't just go like layer transform and get it to pop up to work on paths, you know, from the menu. But when you're going through the tools, they do work on paths. So, yeah, I guess that's about it. I mean, I can't think of anything else I need to show off right now. So yeah, certainly ask any questions and I will happily answer them. Good luck drawing stuff.